at any point you should fall off and re-sign on and miss a part or have to leave early, we'll be sending all the slides and the recording to everyone who has registered for this event. We'll also be on Twitter, so if you do have any snippets of information you want to share, by all means do so. Tweet us at Everbridge and use the hashtag campus safety and hashtag Everbridge. So just to give you guys a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about today, after I begin, our speaker will go through introductions. She'll cover RIT, the challenges they have faced. We will go over a Clery Act overview in regards to emergency notifications versus timely warnings, the timeline of their implementation with the notification system, and our speaker will go through some use cases and best practices. After that, I will go over a couple different parts of how Everbridge fits into that equation, and then we'll finish off with some Q&A. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to our speaker, Lynn Daly of Rochester Institute of Technology. She is the Business Continuity Director at RIT. Lynn, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me get that up. Is that working fine there?
Yep.
Good. Hello, everyone. How are you today? I'm certain that I've met some of you somewhere around at a conference or some other seminar. Glad to have you here today. My name is Lynn Daly. I work here at the Rochester Institute of Technology. I've been here since 2007, hired as the business continuity professional here. But mostly, honestly, what I've done in the last 7 years is related to emergency management. Because as you know, college campuses are like cities, and you have to manage them like cities, and emergency management is quite important. We'll go over the timeline in just a second, but one of the biggest things that we had to do was consider and get a communications capability, both our internal capabilities and get something external. But we'll go into that in just a second. Just a little bit about RIT. We're here in Rochester, New York. Our major hazard here is snow and ice, which is not too bad, and then some power failures. The campus is about 1,300 acres, about a mile square, just south of Rochester in Henrietta. We do have campuses in Dubai and campuses in Kosovo and Croatia, and we do have some partnerships in China. Our student body, we have about 6,000 to 7,000 residential students, 2,700 international students, and we also have a quite large deaf community because of the National Technical Institute for the Deaf. And as you can see, we have faculty, adjuncts, and about 2,500 staff. So when we were looking at communicating with our campus community for emergency notifications and timely warnings, we had to take into consideration a number of factors. You know, who our campus community was, where they lived, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail as well. So our challenges, we put together, honestly, a what I call a task force. I have a military background, so I use military terms. We put together a communications task force, and we needed to be able to communicate with a widely distributed population, both here on campus and off campus, with various modes of receiving information. Students that had their smartphones at the time, deaf and hard of hearing students who were very into using instant messaging, staff members who didn't have a smartphone or didn't even receive texts, some on campus that don't have computers, either at the office or even at home, some with just home phones. So we were looking at solutions that could provide the ability to quickly and easily communicate with everyone for emergency notifications, and also use for timely warnings as needed. So those were meeting the Clery Act requirements for the emergency notification and timely warning. The other thing is we wanted to be able to activate the notification system quickly and easily. We didn't want to go, we wanted the people in charge or responsible for determining whether or not there was an emergency on campus to be the ones that actually activated the notification. We didn't want to wait the 10, 15, 20, 30, 45 minutes to an hour to raise it up to a level of, let's say, a vice president or a senior vice president or an executive to give the approval. So we needed to push that level of authority down to the lowest possible level and give them an easy way and a quick way to send out notifications if they needed to. More recently, we needed to find a way to include visitors and patrons in our emergency notifications. We got a new president that started a program here called Imagine RIT. And for that day, we will have up to 50,000 members of the Rochester community here on campus. Plus commencement, graduation, convocation. We needed a way to communicate with those visitors and patrons as well. So that was a more recent requirement. So as most of you know a little bit about the Clery Act, and just to let you know, I'm looking at the, and I get information and look at the Handbook for Campus Safety and Security Reporting, the 2016 edition. So that's what I use to make sure I'm complying with Clery Act in terms of emergency notification. So the requirement is to immediately notify the campus community when you confirm a significant emergency occurring on campus, and we know what Clery Act does with campus geography, that involves an immediate threat to health to students and employees. So that's the requirement. That's the Clery Act requirement. Clery does not dictate what types of communication systems or modes of communication, methods of communication that you must use, but you must be able to reach your entire community immediately. And they don't define what immediately means. It's reasonable, you know, to confirm the significant emergency and then take action to activate your communication methods. But it doesn't dictate exactly what mode of communication you must use. I would say that, let's say, for example, your mode of communication in your policy was to write flyers and get RAs to post them around campus. That probably wouldn't fly if you were sued by a parent because a student died because of an active shooter and they didn't get a warning. So I think the mode of communication needs to be reasonable for the times that we're in. Electronic communication, generally. That's what we went with. It also, the system needs to allow notification to the appropriate segments of the population. Meaning if you want to segment your notification to just a particular building because there's a bomb threat there, just students because it's a threat just to students. So you need to be able to segment your notification to the populations that you have on campus, which is one of the reasons why we went through our task force and decided what kinds of populations that we have in our campus community. Clery also requires that you be able to determine the content of the message. So when there is a determination that there is a significant threat, you have to be able to communicate to the campus community, determine what segment of the population you're going to send it to, and then be able to determine the content of the message. And of course, we're not going to go into so much, you know, writing content, but if folks have questions about that, I'd be willing to share what some of our template messages are. And then you have to describe in your policy and be able to practice how the notification will be initiated. So all of these things have to be described in your policy, and you have to be able to do them. Excuse me, as well as who, by title, is responsible for sending those notifications. At RIT, the public safety patrol supervisor, lieutenant, or sergeant in charge of a particular shift is responsible for sending notifications here at RIT. They have the authority to determine that there is a significant emergency, determine what message to send, modify the content as appropriate, initiate the notification, and get it out there. And then they call the on-duty boss. So their first job is to send out that, what we refer to as RIT Alert. Now, timely warnings are different than emergency notifications. It's a totally different subject. Although an emergency notification can serve as a timely warning, depending on what the situation is. If there's an active shooting going on campus and you send out an emergency notification, that can serve as a timely warning. But timely warnings are not emergency notifications. So, I hope you get the difference. Like all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs. So basically, timely warning is alerting the campus community that certain crimes are happening on campus, and Clery describes that the Campus Safety and Security Handbook or Guide describes what the Clery Act crimes are, and it's sending out the warning to the campus community in hopes of preventing similar crimes and allow people to protect themselves. Okay, so when you look at the second bullet, it's crimes that occur in the Clery geography, and Clery geography is very difficult to actually determine sometimes, but we're not going to quite get into that today. But it's the crimes occurring in your Clery geography. And they are issued on a case-by-case basis, depending on the nature of the crime, if there's a continuing danger to the campus community, and if providing information or that timely warning would risk or compromise your law enforcement efforts, then you don't need to send it if it would compromise those efforts. Very similar to an emergency notification. It doesn't say how you will send that notification, so it's not prescribed, and neither is the content prescribed. Just like with emergency notifications, the content is not prescribed. It just says that you will send these notifications in a timely way to help prevent Clery Act crimes and protect the campus community. So just a little timeline of how we got to where we are today. I started here in January 2007, and as part of that, we were getting a business recovery and emergency management software, and then Virginia Tech happened. Originally, we weren't going to go with a notification system, but since Virginia Tech happened, and I think you all remember some of the issues with communication, understanding exactly the nature of the crime. I mean, who would have thought that the crime would end up being what it was? And then the ability to warn or notify everyone in the campus community. So folks here, senior executives here said we're going to get a notification system. We decided to go with the National Notification Network. That was Everbridge 3N before they became Everbridge. The reason why we went with Everbridge, or 3N at the time, was because it was a system that allowed us to send one message, one notification using multiple electronic means of reaching and some analog means, telephones, to people. Modes of receiving information that just about everybody on campus had, whether it be email, SMS text, voice to mobile phones, home phones, and at the time, instant messaging. And that was all done with one notification. So our public safety officers didn't have to worry about calling ITS to update this, and then calling the communications officer, the PIO, to do this, and then calling so-and-so to do that. They could jump on the computer, or actually jump on the computer at the time, or call a live operator and get this notification out. So that's why we went with 3N at the time. Another big deal was its ability to integrate with our emergency, our business continuity planning software. So we were able to take information from that planning software, the contact information for all our students, staff, faculty, and adjuncts, and everyone else, and upload that directly into 3N, now Everbridge. So I didn't have to mess with the data in 2 or 3 different locations. There was one source of data, and the employees and students, they manage their own data, so it takes a lot of the administrative burden off of me. So 3N was the only company that was willing to integrate with that provider at the time, although others are now integrating with that provider and others. So that's why we went with 3N. In May 2008, I received the Emergency Management for Higher Education grant, and then in September, we purchased Alertus. I don't know if you've heard of Alertus, but it's a facility-based notification system, and we integrated that with Everbridge. So now we have the facility-based service and the electronic-based notification service, and they're both integrated, meaning if we activate our notification system using Everbridge, it will activate Alertus. If we activate the notification system using Alertus, it will activate Everbridge. So it's a one-stop shop for our lieutenants and sergeant shift supervisors. Again, we try to make it as quick and easy for them. And Everbridge, the way it integrates with our planning software and Alertus, makes that possible. So that's the first thing. The integration with Alertus is invaluable to us. So if you can see the way our system is set up, we call it RIT Alert. Alertus and Everbridge are linked by an API. Alertus activates the different methods, including those beacons. It posts to Facebook. It posts to our main and emergency website. It sends out Twitter. We have some outdoor sirens, and then Everbridge sends the electronic means and a home telephone. So we have everything covered for our population that is deaf or hard of hearing, for a population that may be blind, for a population that does not have computers at work or does not have computers at home and doesn't check email, for those folks who only have a home phone and not a cell phone. So we can get to everybody, which is with just one press of a button. Honestly, we have a button for armed intruder, and all the dispatch officer has to do is press the button and everything goes. So we have those multiple methods of activating the broadcast. Now, actually, the supervisors use the Everbridge mobile app, and that makes it very, very easy for them. They just go on, they log in, they select their template message, and they send, which is very easy for them. They're very easy to modify, just a couple of words, so they don't have to spend a whole lot of time. We don't want them to have to think too much. When an emergency is happening on campus, you don't want to have to make a ton of decisions. You want to be able to pick up something and do it. Another interesting thing, for the emergency notifications that don't change, for example, the all clear or general campus emergency or some others, I can record that message, but if the message does have some modifications to be made, like armed intruder at building such and such and its name, then the Everbridge system will use text-to-speech conversion, so the supervisor doesn't have to record it. They just have to do the text and send it out, and the system changes it to text-to-speech. And then again, as you can see, we have multiple publishing options and modes of delivery, which makes it simple. There's just one message, same message goes everywhere. Okay. The other great thing is the notification reports. we can go in and look at all of our notification reports for audit purposes, for record purposes, to see who was sent the message. Did they receive it? Did they not receive it? Did they respond? Did they not respond if we've asked for a confirmation? So notification reporting is very important for us, particularly during audits. When we use systems, I like to get value out of systems. So in addition to just the emergency notification and timely warning capability, we also can do incident management team communications. I've created roles and groups for our incident management team. We call it our critical incident management team, and our emergency support functions. For those of you not familiar with that, emergency support functions, ESFs, are part of it's part of the CPG 101 way of preparing plans. So emergency support functions. So for example, our ITS, they have an emergency support functions, they have roles and groups, and they can use this for communicating with each other for critical IT incidents. Our residence life group, they have roles and groups, and they can communicate with all of our resident students at once, or building by building by building. And it gives us the ability to group recipients and send just to those recipients. The other cool thing is we have an emergency operations center here on campus, but like I mentioned before, one of our biggest hazards is ice and snow. So when we had our blizzard here not too long ago, we were closing down the university and had a power failure, so we activated our emergency operations center, but of course not everyone could come in. So we had some folks here at the EOC, and I'm able to send a text out to our incident management team members and our ESF group leaders, and they can conference bridge right in, either using an Everbridge conference bridge number or local conference bridge numbers that we set up. We use Blue Jeans, and then we have some local RIT ones. We can also use polling notifications. Our facilities management vice president likes that. He sends out polling notifications to his staff saying, are you available to come in at, from 3 p.m. or for this shift? And people can respond back and say yes or no, so he knows who's available to come in at 2 o'clock in the morning when they're getting ready to prepare roadways and walkways after the snow. One of the new things that we've done, we talked about being able to communicate with visitors, is Everbridge calls it community engagement. It's Nixle. I've partnered up with our event managers on campus, from government and community relations to our academic affairs folks, admissions, and our Imagine RIT folks. What we do is we create these event groups, and you can see examples of some. And what this does is it allows the event logistics folks to communicate with patrons. Folks will text the keyword, the opt-in keyword, to 888-777, and they're opted into the system, they're subscribed, and now those managers, the folks who are managing the event, can communicate with them. So it's a wonderful marketing and communication tool for them as an event manager. For us, for event security, and down here at the EOC, we can use it for emergency notifications or emergency communications with patrons. So now when we have 20,000 people on the campus for Imagine RIT and something bad is happening, we can include that event group in our RIT Alert, and those folks will get it. And just as an interesting thing too, we were actually testing the system, and it was Imagine RIT, and a young man with autism walked away from his parents. And 2 or 3 minutes later, they noticed he was missing, and public safety was searching for him. And what we did is I sent a note off to the event manager for Imagine RIT. She sent out a message to the Nixle event group users, the folks that subscribed, with the description and name of the young man who went missing, and within 2 minutes, someone had spotted him and had called public safety, and he was reunited with his family in about 5 minutes. So there he was, one young man amongst 20,000, and we found him in just a minute or two. So the system was very helpful in that regard. These are some of the things that I guess I've learned over the years from being here at RIT and using notification systems or these communication systems. First, it's initiating the emergency notifications as easy and as quick as possible. That means pushing the authority to activate the broadcast or activate the notification to the lowest competent authority. We shouldn't have to wait for a vice president to say it's okay to send out a communication when there's an active shooter on campus. Message templates need to be available for these folks to choose from. They shouldn't have to make this up on the fly. There are some that should be ones that you don't have to change, and ones that you do have to change, maybe just add a building or an area on campus. Set defaults in the system so that changes are not required when that user goes in to activate a broadcast, meaning defaults like how many times the message will be sent, what methods will be used. Will it be to email, SMS, mobile, that kind of thing. So you can set those to a default so they don't have to check those. All they have to do is choose the message, change it, and send. One button activation. There are ways to do that, or maybe just two-touch activations using either the Everbridge app, pulling up that, logging in, pulling up the notification template, and pressing send. The other thing is, I prefer integration of our notification system with existing student and employee record systems. I've chosen not to put out on a separate website where people can sign in and, let's say, opt in and add themselves for the notification system to a second site. In general, people don't like to go to a lot of different places to manage data. Also, they don't like to remember lots of usernames and logins. We use the official source of data here. It's the Human Resources Information System and the Student Information System. So employees and students have one place to go, and that is the official source, and so that's the data we use for RIT Alert and for Everbridge. Students and employees, they manage their own data. I don't have to manage it. It makes it a lot easier for me. It also eliminates multiple locations for data and differences within data. For example, if folks are going to a separate site to add their data, if they graduate or leave employment, then they have to go in and remove themselves from that list. And so with the Student Information System and the Human Resources Information System, I don't have to worry about that. When they're terminated or if they're graduated, they're automatically removed from the system. I don't have to worry about it. Integration with other notification systems and methods. Whatever systems you go with, you need to make sure that they can integrate with your core contact information systems and any other notification systems that you might have. Can you integrate with social media? The less places you have to go to send out a notification, the better. For example, if there's an armed intruder on campus, and all public safety can do is send out a text message, but you need a web content manager to update your website, and IT has to do something else. That takes quite a long time, especially if people are not available and it's the middle of the night and people have to jump on and log on to computers. So if you can integrate with your other systems, that's a plus. The other great thing is it posts the same message across all the media. So you don't have to worry about making sure that you're typing the right thing in 5 or 6 different places. That one message will come across all of the media if they're all integrated. Well, that's all I have. So I'll hand it back to our moderator and be willing to answer any of your questions later.
Excellent. Thank you, Lynn. And Lynn, can you see my screen, my slides?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to move on to the Everbridge portion of the webinar. So just briefly before I tie in some of what Lynn was talking about and her best practices with what we do, I just want to give you guys a brief company overview to understand, for some of you who are new to us, I know we do have some customers on, but I know some of you came from our partnership with Campus Safety Magazine, and this might be the first time you're hearing Everbridge or seeing one of our webinars and hearing from a customer. So in short, essentially what we do, what we are used for is a multitude of use cases, from man-made disasters such as a terrorist attack or bombing, to natural disasters, all the way to IT and community events. Our primary objective really is to keep people safe and businesses running. So just to give you guys an idea of what type of industries we service, we sort of run the gamut and do them all, and we're used by 8 of the 10 largest U.S. cities, 24 of the top 25 busiest North American airports, and in our space, we're the only publicly traded company, EVBG, on the NASDAQ. We've received a multitude of market recognition awards, from Gartner to BCI North American awards. So the reason I bring that up is because it's important to know that we are used in other industries, because what we preach at Everbridge is sort of what we call, we're coined the network effect. And that's important for someone in a university or any of these other types of organizations, because it allows you to see what other EV users are in your area and what messages they've sent publicly. This is especially useful if there's a great concentration of EV users, Everbridge users, in a given area. It gives you an option to collaborate with other users, determine if an event will affect your campus, ultimately your campus community, and what actions are appropriate to take. This can also help reduce message confusion and ultimately, the end goal, save lives. So let's talk about the current situation we're in with emergencies, especially on campuses. With any campus situation, not inclusive to just universities or colleges, it's become increasingly difficult to meet the safety needs for employees, students, faculty, visitors. You're often asking questions: are my employees and students safe? Which employees and students need help? And what responders are on their way? The challenges, as you can see from some of the events I have here in pictures, is traditional safe zones don't necessarily exist. Open campuses, open areas like the Pulse nightclub, or Nice, France, where a truck drove through a crowded area, they're seen as easy targets. So it makes things quite difficult to protect. So just a breakdown of traditional emergency notification. The real mission with emergency notification is to send messages quickly and reliably to 100% of your anticipated recipients. That's done with Everbridge through multiple modalities such as SMS, email, voice, etc. Automating weather and threat info to potentially impacted recipients. Customizing messages based off geography, location. Unfortunately, the one gap with all that is traditionally it does rely on static office, classroom, or home locations for people. With Everbridge, we try and counteract that with what we coined as ALAC, assess, locate, automate, communicate. And I just want to give you guys, just at a high level breakdown, sort of the gamut we run with our product offering, and I'm going to dive into where that fits into our assess, locate, automate, and communicate. So again, just to give you guys a quick rundown, let's start with assess. What's the impact? Ultimately, you want to determine in any scenario, and what Everbridge helps you do is determine, how bad is this incident, whether it's an active shooter, or this event, whether it's a peaceful campus protest. Do you need someone responding? Do you need to let students know of this? Do you need to send a timely warning, whether it's ongoing criminal activity, or if it's an active shooter, do you need to send an emergency notification? this, we help you assess the situation. From there, the next step is what we help you do is figure out who's in harm's way. And this is where we help you collect information beyond just static knowing where someone's office location is. A professor might have an office location, they might not be there all the time. It's important to know where people exactly are, whether it's through them checking in through Wi-Fi or a mobile app. You know, campus violence, it really does require the need for speed and precision. So the example we have here is during an active shooter. In one location, such as Building A, you might want to send a very specific message, danger, you know, and there's an active shooter in your room, you might want to tell them to run, hide, and fight. Whereas in Building C, they're far enough away where you just need to let them know, hey, there's issues in Building A, please evacuate to this location and wait there until authorities arrive. It's important, though, that each location has the correct message so they can act appropriately. So next is automate. Lynn talked about this to some degree, talking about how Everbridge has an incident management tool. You know, during any emergency, you know, when stress is at a high, through various studies, it's been proven that everybody's cognitive abilities drop by 2 grade levels. So it's important that you have a way to automate your message delivery. And with Everbridge, you're able to select specific templates that you can put together in advance and have everything, the whole entire workflow done for you. So when that incident occurs, whether it's at 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., you're able to quickly go through it, select the right options, who it's going to, when it's going, and the message, and just send it out in a matter of a minute versus, you know, 30 minutes. And ultimately, with Everbridge, you're able to reach out to your students and faculty and let them know what to do. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means we can reach people more effectively. We can help you, rather, reach more people effectively, because you can message them through a multitude of contact paths, whether it's social media, whether it's email, text message, voice message, through desktop alerting with our Alertus integration. You're able to make sure that those key personnel, faculty, students, visitors, are getting the message. So I want to now dive into the best practices that Lynn was talking about. The first one she mentioned was, you know, make initiating emergency notifications as quick and easy as possible. We covered this a little bit with incident management, incident communication. You know, ultimately, it comes down to you know, workflow automation. Make sure you might not know when an incident's going to occur, when it's going to occur, but you do know at some point or another you may have this. You may not, but you might. So this allows you to at least automate the parts that you know. You know you're going to have to contact Group A. You know you're going to have to send this message. You know you're going to have to send this other message to, you know, Group B. You're going to have to send this follow-up message. You're going to have to incorporate this type of wording. You can have that all set up in advance with workflow automation and your incident response templates to make sure your responders are getting a message, to make sure they're getting not only a message but the right message, and your students, your faculty that aren't responders are getting the right messages themselves. This will also help you with you know, your compliance and reporting. You will have those reports made for you, so you don't have to worry in the heat of the moment what you're gonna, you know, you're gonna have to build these reports after. Those are going to be done for you, and ultimately the goal of this is error-free communication. You know, if I could further emphasize, you know, emergencies make us dumb. Emergencies stress us out. It could be, like I said, 2 a.m. in the morning. You get that call. You're racing over to your computer. You're sweating. You're nervous. Your hand shaking. This allows you to take one variable out, and that variable is having to worry about creating an incident template or an incident or a message from scratch. You'll have everything you need there. All you have to do is fill in a couple different pieces of information that are relevant to this situation, and you can send out the message. And with Everbridge, we actually include some available incident templates that we have all set for you, and that obviously you can go in and edit to make more applicable to your organization or university. Next, I want to cover Lynn's second best practice and lesson learned. She talked about integrating with existing employee and student record systems. One of the biggest issues a lot of organizations have, just outside of forget about emergency notifications by themselves, but any type of system, when you have to manage data in multiple systems, you're going to have errors in one system or another. You're going to have outdated data. What this allows you to do is, one, make sure that data is correct because it's coming from one source, and also save yourself some time. And when you're wearing multiple hats like Lynn does, ultimately time is money. Time is everything, and that allows her and people in similar positions. It allows them to focus on more important things, which are the actual incidents, which is the preparation for these incidents. At the bottom, when you guys get the slides, feel free to read the rest, and I'll include some links also to our API page to explain in further detail how it all works. And lastly, I want to talk about integrating with other notification systems and sending messages through other methods. So what's very important about this that I want to really emphasize is everybody receives messages differently. Everybody has a different buy-in to your system. A visitor probably doesn't care that you have an emergency notification system unless they're on your campus. So it's important to have a way to incentivize them to sign up. And people on your campus who might be visiting your library or using it, it's important to have a way to notify them. And also your students who might not be bought into signing up for your emergency alerts. Remember, opt-in portals are great. They allow your users to have a customized experience, put in their accurate geodata, allow them to enter multiple contact paths. But students might not want to go through the hassle of logging online. Not all of your faculty might completely fill that out. And that's where, Everbridge's community engagement solution with Nixle comes into play, where it allows you to simultaneously post to other methods such as your website or an online bulletin board, the Nixle Wire, or for specific events such as a festival on your campus, Parents Weekend, or a sporting event. You can post up signs and have people opt into specific keywords such as, UConn basketball or BU basketball or RIT parade, and they just simply need to text 888-777. The importance of all this together, it just allows you to be able to reach the maximum amount of people as possible. Through the maximum amount of ways, but doing it simultaneously so you're not adding any extra steps to your workflow, and ensuring that all the messages across these different contact paths are also identical and there's no message confusion, ultimately helping you reach your goal of keeping your campus community safe. So with that, we're going to move on to our Q&A section. As a reminder, you can submit your questions by selecting the questions dropdown in your GoToWebinar panel. Make sure you submit your questions to all panelists. As a reminder, before we get started as well, in our if you go to the handouts dropdown, we also have some handouts. So after the webinar, if you'd like to take a look at the case study we did with RIT, learn a little bit more about how they went about their integration with Everbridge, you can do so by selecting that and learning. We also have some handouts on Everbridge for higher education to help you understand how we fit into the mix. So with that being said, let's move on to our questions. We got quite a few, so we'll try and get through as many as possible. Unfortunately, if we can't get through all of them, we will have an account manager follow up with you afterwards. So let's get started. Our first question from Brett in the audience, Lynn, he wants to know, could you elaborate on the component of timing in the town in terms of notifications? Does that mean within a day, week, month, year?
The the handbook doesn't say what timely actually is. Again, timely is it's a case-by-case basis. It's after, for example, if a particular crime happens, stolen laptop, that's not a continuing threat or concern to property or persons on campus, but let's say another one happens, and another one in another 4 or 5 days. Now you might be putting that pattern together after 3, 4, 5 days. So your timely warning may not go out until after that third theft. So it is a case-by-case basis, and there aren't any specific, let's say, time requirements for timely. It's kind of like with emergency notification. It says immediately, but they don't define what immediately means. I can ask some questions. Let me follow up on that. I'll ask some folks to see if they have any more detail related to that.
Awesome, thank you, Lynn. The next question is from Vivian, and it's actually for me, so I'll answer. She wants to know, can you go into more detail on how campus visitors can opt in into the notices? Well, Vivian, so when a campus is having an event and they're leveraging, the Everbridge system, how visitors can opt in is by texting a keyword. That keyword can be whatever the campus picks. So let's just say, the keyword was, campus sports. And it was so visitors can opt into all sporting events on that campus. They would simply text campus sports to 888-777, and they would be able to receive alerts related to the campus sporting events, whether it's updates or critical incidents that happen at events, like maybe a protest happening before, or severe traffic that's going to cause delays. They can send whatever they'd like that's related to those type of events. Typically, and I'll let Lynn maybe chime in on this part, typically to promote it, they would have signs up, or when they send out flyers or emails regarding the event, typically what I've seen a lot of our customers do is they'll attach that to the email and to their banners, say text this keyword, text campus events to 888-777 to opt into event alerts. Lynn, do you want to chime in? Because I believe you use this part of the tool for a couple of your events, correct? How have you guys got your visitors to opt in?
Generally, it was put on the event website for convocation, commencement, and Imagine RIT. We also used it for Brick City Homecoming and some continuing admissions things. We also put together flyers. So because Imagine RIT, people just kind of come off the street. So we actually had flyers put together for people at our visitor booth. So when they arrived, they just grabbed a flyer and they could sign up or subscribe right then and there.
Awesome. And another question regarding that, and I could take this one, Lynn. Jeremy wants to know, when someone opts in to an event group such as that, will they receive other standard campus alerts? So no, that they won't, unless it's an emergency. It's up to the discretion of the group who created the event alert. So if RIT created an event alert for their parents' weekend, an emergency did happen, they would include that group. But if it was some standard message that they were sending out, no, they wouldn't be receiving standard alerts. So the next question we have, one second. So this is for you, Lynn. Do you have a dedicated ITS staff to manage the ENSS systems, example Alertus, Everbridge, behind the scenes, or is the management of the application, done through you, log review, error handling, unsubscribed assistance?
I am considered, well, first, Everbridge is hosted by Everbridge. So we don't have to manage Everbridge servers or anything like that. That's done through technical support at Everbridge. Alertus, we host that on campus. So ITS does have a server administrator for that, and I work with him. But I am considered the application administrator on campus, or the administrator on campus for all three systems, the planning system, Everbridge, and Alertus. I do work with, there are some folks in IT that have, let's say, specialized knowledge about our RIT Alert system. For example, there's a project manager I work with in ITS who works with Oracle. That's who we use for our student information system. That project manages the algorithms and batch processes to select the correct students to load into Everbridge at the beginning of an academic term. There's also a specialized person at ITS that understands Alertus and creating different desktop clients and things like that. So I'm the application administrator, but I do work with the subject matter and data experts, both in human resources, ITS, for the data and the let's say the pulling of the data from those systems.
Thank you, Lynn. The next question from Donna is, as far as templates, how specific is the information provided, i.e. suspect description? Donna, so it's really how much in detail you want to build the template out. So in terms of suspect description, you can create a field where you can have it formatted so it specifically calls it out, and you'd fill that portion out. So for example, a missing persons case. You know, for every missing persons template that you're going to be sending out or message, you're going to be obviously notifying a certain groups. You'll be notifying, you know, campus supply security, police, and then also, you know, the students to look out. Those messages might be different. And in the formatting of those messages, though, you're probably going to want a part that talks about the description. So what you would do is in the template, you could actually go into just that description, fill that out, and then be able to send it. So Lynn, just to follow up to Donna's question, you know, do you mind elaborating on, you know, an incident template you guys have and how in detail you guys go with your templates?
For our emergency notifications, we limit our templates to about 10, honestly. For an active shooter, we refer to it as armed intruder or active killer. We do not include a description of the suspect. We just say RIT alert, active armed intruder or active killer at near such and such location, lock doors, yada, 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 and the actions we want them to take, and then wait for further instructions. So we don't give a description. The reason for that is we want people to take those run, hide, fight, because that's what we use here. Those run, hide, fight actions very, very, very quickly, and we don't want to not waste any time waiting for suspect description information or having to type that in. So we just want to get it out very quickly. For missing people at events, we don't have a template per se. It's just, have you seen so-and-so? Here's the description, contact public safety if you've seen them. But for...
Yeah, and just, no, good point. And just to elaborate more on the templates, essentially what it allows you to do is it just puts into place certain fields that are always, you know, that aren't going to change. Like, you know, instead of you having to type in the time or the date, that's automatically populated. It populates certain fields for you and then has text boxes for formatting purposes for certain areas. And then just from the workflow standpoint, for certain events, you know, certain groups are going to have to be notified. They're going to have to go out at certain frequencies. It takes care of that, or rather, it allows you to take care of that in advance. So, you know, whether you're on duty, whether someone who's been trained on the system, been using it for years, like Lynn, is on duty using the system, or someone who might be covering for her, or or it might be their first day using the system, it puts it in the simplest fashion for them, so you don't have to worry about training that individual person for the system. They can simply go in for this particular message or this type of event. They can send out a notification without having to make a huge mistake, like sending out an active shooter by accident to the whole campus, or not sending it out. It takes out a lot of variables in those instances, and puts in a lot of factors in a lot of rules that you pre-configure. So that way you don't have to worry about doing that on the fly, or in case you're not there, the system admin, and say you have a user sending that out, you don't have to worry about them making a mistake, because everything's pre-drafted for them, and they just have certain fields that they fill out. So we have a couple more questions, so I'm going to try and get to at least 2 more. So Lynn, the next question for you is your system being used outside of emergency services, or public safety rather, or other departments, are they leveraging the system as well for other purposes besides public safety?
We have other departments using the system, but only for emergent kinds of situations. Meaning, our IT department, if there is a severity 1 incident, meaning a critical service has been impacted, we've had a cyber attack, which actually happened a few weeks ago, they use the system to notify the appropriate IT staff that will get involved in the response. Our residence life folks, they use it for communicating with students for emergent situations. The same with our facilities management services. I've told folks that when I set them up with the ability to use the system in that role and group, that they can use it for emergent uses only. So it's not, other than Nixle or the community engagement, which honestly you need to market as a marketing tool in order for people to sign up for it. Our regular Everbridge notification groups and roles side of things, it's only for emergent types of issues. But I'm not the only one who is permitted to use it. I've allowed others to use it for their groups.
Thank you, Lynn. And so our last question comes from Jack in the audience, and he wants to know, Lynn, oops, move my screen 1 second, guys. He wants to know, he might have missed this part, I believe you mentioned it, how do you leverage Everbridge for timely warnings? Is that something you're using the community engagement module for as well, since they offer the Nixle Wire bulletin board?
No, the communicating with the campus community, meaning RIT students, RIT employees, is done using the Everbridge mass notification system, and that's the main system. So with that, we can send emails to their official RIT or RIT Gmail account, or via text message. However, public safety has decided they want to send that timely warning, and to whom they want to send the timely warning. Other methods besides Everbridge are used for that as well. Nixle we only use for patrons, visitors who are attending events. So we would not send a, let's say, a timely warning to them. But if there was an emergency on campus while we were going through Imagine RIT, that group, that Imagine RIT group, the patrons that subscribed, they would be included in our emergency notification. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, so at this time, we're going to conclude the webinar. As a reminder, the recording and the slides will be available within a few days. We'll send them via email, and they will be on our website. In your handout section, if you want to learn about RIT and how they integrated with Everbridge, the use case is available as a handout. Just go to your handout section in the GoToWebinar panel. We also have, again, a couple other data sheets just for your reference. And there is a survey once this webinar ends that you guys can fill out. I want to thank everyone who joined us today, and especially our speaker, Lynn. Thank you so much for joining us and for providing your thought leadership on this subject. And I hope everyone a great rest of their week. Have a great day. Thank you.